Jake Morrison adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform one last time before entering the massive council chamber. The building stretched higher than any human structure, its crystalline walls glowing with alien technology that made Earth's best. Scientists looked like children playing with toys. Representatives from 47 different species filled the curved seating areas, their forms ranging from the graceful bird-like Zelthri to the massive rock creatures of Granite Prime. The air hummed with tension that Jake could feel in his bones. 3 months of negotiations had led to this moment, and every instinct told him it would not end well for humanity. Dr. Lisa Parker stood beside him, her scientific instruments recording everything for the historical archives back on Earth. She had warned him during the flight here that the mood had shifted dramatically since their last visit. "Ambassador Morrison," called the voice of Council Prime Zekthar, his crystalline form pulsing with harsh blue light. "You will stand in the center circle and hear the judgment of this council." Jake walked forward slowly, his boots echoing in. The vast chamber. The alien faces around him showed expressions he had learned to read over the past 5 years since humanity joined the galactic community. Fear, disgust, and something else he could not quite identify. The Felian representative hissed softly as he passed, her cat-like features twisted with obvious distaste. "The Council has reviewed all evidence regarding the human species and their actions since joining our alliance," Zekthar continued, his voice carrying easily through the chamber's perfect acoustics. "We have documented 17 separate incidents of violence, 12 violations of peaceful contact protocols, and 3 direct refusals to follow established diplomatic procedures." Jake wanted to object immediately, but forced himself to remain silent. The incidents they mentioned were hardly the crimes they made them sound like. The violence had been humans defending themselves against pirates and raiders. The protocol violations were simple misunderstandings about alien customs that hurt no one. The diplomatic refusals came when the Council asked humanity to stop helping smaller species defend themselves. "Furthermore," added the reptilian delegate from Vex Prime, her scales shifting from green to an angry red, "humans have repeatedly demonstrated an alarming tendency toward aggressive solutions when peaceful alternatives exist. Your species seems incapable of resolving conflicts without resorting to what you call military action." Lisa leaned closer to Jake and whispered urgently, "They are not mentioning the 17 worlds we helped protect from raiders or the medical supplies we provided during the Outer Rim Plague. This is not about our actions." The Granite Prime representative rumbled to life, his voice like grinding stone. "Most disturbing of all is the human refusal to accept proper authority. When this council provides guidance, other species listen and obey. Humans question, argue, and frequently ignore direct orders from their betters." Jake felt his temper rising but kept his expression neutral. The council had never actually given humanity direct orders before, only strong suggestions that other species seemed to follow without question. Humans had a habit of thinking for themselves that apparently made the alien leadership uncomfortable. "The evidence is clear," announced a floating jellyfish-like creature whose name Jake could never pronounce correctly. "Humans represent a destabilizing influence on galactic peace. Your species brings chaos wherever you go." "That is completely unfair," Jake finally spoke, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "Humanity has contributed more to galactic defense in 5 years than most species have in centuries. We share our technology freely, we help anyone who asks, and we have never started a conflict with another council member." Zekthar's form pulsed brighter. "You speak of defense, but what you practice is aggression. You build warships when we have no wars. You train soldiers when we live in peace. You prepare for conflicts that do not exist." "We prepare for conflicts that might exist," Jake replied firmly. "The galaxy is not as safe as you pretend it is. Raiders still attack merchant ships. Pirates still prey on peaceful worlds. Someone has to be ready to protect the innocent." "That someone does not need to be human," hissed the Filian representative. "Your species corrupts others with your violent thinking. The Tau Ceti colonies have begun building their own warships after working with humans. The mining worlds now train militias instead of relying on council protection. Lisa stepped forward. They are protecting themselves because council protection has proven inadequate. The mining worlds called for help 6 times last year. Each time, council peacekeepers arrived days after the attacks ended. Peace takes time, rumbled the Granite Prime delegate. Violence only creates more violence. Tell that to the families who died waiting for your peaceful solutions. Jake shot back. The chamber erupted in angry chittering, hissing, and rumbling from dozens of alien throats. Zekthar raised his crystalline arms for silence. This outburst proves our point exactly, he declared. Humans cannot discuss problems without becoming aggressive. Your emotions control your actions. Your species is too primitive for civilized society. Jake took a deep breath and forced himself to speak calmly. If defending innocent people makes us primitive, then we are proud to be primitive. If helping others defend themselves makes us aggressive, then we accept that label. But do not pretend. This is about our behavior. Then what is it about? Asked the floating jellyfish creature. It is about fear, Jake said simply. You are afraid that other species might start thinking like humans. You are afraid they might question your authority. You are afraid they might decide they do not need the council to make their decisions for them? The silence that followed was deafening. Several alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Felian delegate's tail twitched nervously. Zekthar finally spoke again. The council has reached its decision. Humanity is too dangerous to remain part of galactic civilization. Your species promotes violence, questions authority, and corrupts other cultures with your primitive thinking. Therefore, continued the Vex Prime representative, all human presence in council space must end. You have 30 standard days to withdraw every human ship, station, and settlement beyond your home system's boundaries. Jake felt the words hit him like a physical blow. You are making a terrible mistake. Any human vessel found in council space after the deadline will be destroyed without warning, Zekthar announced. Any species found harboring humans will face immediate expulsion from the council. Lisa grabbed Jake's arm. They cannot do this. There are millions of humans living and working throughout the galaxy. They can and they are, Jake replied quietly, then raised his voice to address the council. You will regret this decision. The galaxy is more dangerous than you know, and you are throwing away the only species willing to face that danger. We face no dangers that peaceful negotiation cannot solve, declared the Granite Prime delegate. Jake activated his emergency communicator. Admiral Stone, this is Ambassador Morrison. Begin immediate evacuation procedures. We are no longer welcome. Here, as he turned to leave the chamber, Jake heard Zekthar's final words echoing behind him. Let this serve as a warning to all species. The path of violence leads only to exile. Choose peace and the council will protect you. Walking back through the crystalline corridors, Jake wondered how long that protection would last without humans to back it up. 5 years had passed since the Great Evacuation, and Earth looked nothing like the world humanity had left behind when they first reached for the stars. The orbital shipyards around Luna worked day and night, their construction lights visible from the planet's surface like new constellations. What the Council had meant as punishment had become the greatest period of human advancement in history. Commander Ryan Bell guided his shuttle through the massive industrial complex orbiting Europa. The ice moon had been transformed into humanity's primary mining and manufacturing center, its frozen surface now dotted with cities that stretched both above and below the ice. Through his viewport, Ryan could see the massive fusion reactors that powered the operation, their energy output dwarfing anything the Council species had ever built. Sir, the new colony ships are ready for final inspection, reported his co-pilot, Lieutenant Kate Wilson. She gestured toward a row of vessels that stretched nearly 2 kilometers each. Engineering says they can support 10,000 colonists indefinitely, Ryan nodded with satisfaction. When the Council had forced humanity back to their home system, most people thought it meant the end of human expansion. Instead, it had forced them to look inward and discover resources they never knew they had. The asteroid belt provided more raw materials than 100 worlds, and the gas giants offered enough fuel to power civilization for millennia. Back on Earth, Dr. Amanda Foster stood in her laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching her latest experiment with growing excitement. The quantum entanglement communicator hummed quietly on the workbench, its crystalline core glowing with soft blue light. For 3 years, she had worked on the problem of faster-than-light communication, something the Council species claimed was impossible without their relay network. "Test Sequence 7 is ready," announced her assistant, Dr. Bobby Chun, from his position at the control panel. "The receiver station on Titan reports ready to accept transmission." Amanda activated the device and spoke clearly into the microphone. "This is Earth-based to Titan Colony. Please confirm reception of this message." The response came back instantly, with no delay despite the billions of kilometers between the two locations. "Titan Colony to Earth Base, we receive you perfectly." "The signal is crystal clear," Amanda smiled broadly. The Council had cut humanity off from their communication network, thinking it would isolate human colonies and make coordination impossible. Instead, humans had developed something far superior. While Council messages still took days or weeks to cross the galaxy through their relay system, human communications could now travel anywhere instantaneously. On the edge of the solar system, Captain Nina Wright commanded the most advanced ship humanity had ever built. The used Defiance looked nothing like the bulky vessels humans had used during their Council days. Its hull was made from materials that bent light around them, making the ship nearly invisible to most sensors. Its engines used principles that pushed the boundaries of known physics, allowing speeds that would have impressed even the arrogant Council engineers. "Ma'am, we are approaching the outer marker," reported her navigation officer, Ensign Tom Barnes. "All stealth systems are operating perfectly." Nina nodded from her captain's chair. "Take us across the boundary, but keep us in the shadow of that asteroid field. I want to know what our former friends have been up to." The Defiance slipped silently into what had once been called Council space, its advanced sensors scanning for any signs of alien activity. What they found surprised everyone on the bridge. The normal heavy traffic of merchant ships and passenger vessels had dwindled to almost nothing. Several monitoring stations that should have been bustling with activity sat dark and apparently abandoned. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Danny Kim from his communications station, "I'm picking up some kind of distress signal. It's coming from the outer rim, but the signal is very weak." "Put it on speakers," Nina ordered, the voice that crackled. Through the bridge speakers was barely recognizable as Phelium, the cat-like aliens who had been among the most vocal supporters of human banishment. "This is Colony Ship Bright Claw calling any Council vessel. We are under attack by unknown hostiles. Our peacekeeping escort has been destroyed. Please send help immediately." The signal cut off abruptly, replaced by static. Nina felt a chill run down her spine. In all the years humans had worked with the Council, she had never heard such panic in an alien voice. "Keep monitoring all frequencies," she ordered. "I want to know about every distress call, every emergency signal, everything." Over the following days, the pattern became clear and terrifying. Ships were disappearing throughout the outer regions of Council space. Entire colonies had gone silent without explanation. The few survivors who managed to send distress calls spoke of attackers who showed no mercy and accepted no surrender. Meanwhile, back on Mars, engineer Carlos Martinez put the finishing touches on humanity's newest achievement. The prototype vessel sitting in the construction bay looked like nothing any human had built before. Its sleek lines and aggressive styling were clearly inspired by military thinking, but its technology was purely human innovation. "The first test flight is scheduled for tomorrow," Carlos told the assembled team of engineers and pilots. "This ship can travel farther and faster than anything in the known galaxy. More importantly, it can fight better than anything out there." 2. General Paul Anderson, now the head of Human Space Command, walked around the vessel with obvious pride. When the Council had expelled humanity, they thought they were removing a dangerous element from galactic society. Instead, they had given humans exactly what they needed: the motivation to become something far more powerful than they had ever been before. How many of these can we build? Paul asked. With our current production capacity, about 50 per month, Carlos replied. But if we expand the Mars shipyards, we could double that number within a year? Paul nodded thoughtfully. Reports from the Defiance and other scout ships painted a disturbing picture of chaos spreading through Council space. Whatever was attacking, the alien worlds was systematic, ruthless, and apparently unstoppable by conventional Council forces. Dr. Lisa Parker, now Earth's Secretary of Xenological Affairs, joined them in the hangar. She had aged visibly during the 5 years of exile, but her eyes still held the sharp intelligence that had made her one of humanity's finest scientists. Paul, we need to talk, she said quietly. The intelligence reports from our scout ships are getting worse. Entire star systems are going dark. If this continues, there might not be a council left to reconcile with. Paul looked at the sleek warship before them, then at the orbital construction yards visible through the hangar's transparent walls. Humanity had spent 5 years building the most powerful military force in galactic history, originally intending it for exploration and defense of human space. Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs, he said finally. Maybe it's time to remind everyone why they were so afraid of us in the first place. None of them could have predicted that the very qualities the Council had feared in humanity would soon become the galaxy's only hope for survival. The emergency session in the Council chamber looked nothing like the proud gathering that had banished humanity 5 years earlier. Half the seats sat empty, their former occupants either dead or missing as entire species had simply vanished from the galaxy. Council Prime Zekthar S. crystalline form had lost most of its luminescence, the once bright blue glow now a dim flicker that barely lit his immediate surroundings. 17 more worlds have gone silent this week, reported the Filian delegate, her voice barely above a whisper. Her once proud species now numbered fewer than 1 million survivors scattered across refugee ships. The attackers are moving faster than our evacuation efforts can manage. The reptilian representative from Vex Prime hissed in frustration. Our peacekeeping fleets are completely useless against these devourers. They destroy our ships before we can even identify their attack patterns. The name had stuck after the first encounters with the mysterious attackers. Survivors described ships that seemed to consume everything in their path, leaving nothing but empty space where thriving worlds had once existed. No one knew where they came from or what they wanted, only that they showed no mercy and accepted no communication attempts. Perhaps, suggested the floating jellyfish creature whose homeworld had been among the first to fall, we should consider reaching out to species outside the Council for assistance. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew exactly which species the delegate meant, but no one wanted to say the words aloud. The Granite Prime representative rumbled uncomfortably in his seat. The humans were banished for good reason, Zekthar said weakly. They are violent and unpredictable. So are the Devourers, replied the Filian delegate. But at least the humans never tried to exterminate entire species. Meanwhile, deep in space aboard the UES Defiance, Captain Nina Wright watched her screens with growing alarm. The stealth ship had been monitoring Devourer movements for weeks, and the patterns were becoming clear and terrifying. The attackers were not random raiders or desperate refugees. They moved with purpose and coordination that suggested advanced intelligence and careful planning. Captain, called Lieutenant Danny Kim from his communications station, I've managed to intercept one of their transmissions. Computer specialist Tim Conway has been working on translation. Sergeant Tim Conway looked up from his workstation, his face pale with shock. Ma'am, you need to hear this. I've only managed to decode parts of it, but what I've found is disturbing. Nina walked over to his station. What did you discover? They're not just attacking randomly, Tim explained, pulling up the translated text on his screen. They're looking for something specific. And according to this transmission, they've been searching for what they call apex predators. Apex predators? Nina repeated. Species that pose a threat to galactic order, Tim continued reading. The transmission mentions their creators were destroyed by such a species thousands of years ago. They've been programmed to hunt down and eliminate any species that shows similar characteristics. Nina felt her blood run cold. What kind of characteristics? Tim scrolled through the translation. Aggressive expansion, military innovation, resistance to authority, unpredictable behavior patterns. He looked up at Nina with growing understanding. Captain, they're describing humans. But we're not in council space anymore, Nina said slowly. No, ma'am, we're not. But according to their records, we should be. They found the council's files about our banishment and assumed the council was hiding us. When they couldn't find humans in council space, they decided to eliminate every species that might be harboring us. The full horror of the situation hit Nina like a physical blow. Send an immediate message to Earth Command. Priority 1 encryption. Back on Earth. General Paul Anderson read the intelligence report 3 times before calling an emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council. President Karen Davis listened to the briefing with growing disbelief. You're telling me that these devourers are destroying the entire galaxy because they're looking for us? She asked. That's exactly what I'm telling you, Paul replied grimly. The Council's attempt to protect the galaxy from humanity has doomed it instead. Dr. Lisa Parker studied the translated Devour communications on her tablet. This explains their systematic approach. They're not trying to conquer territory or gather resources. They're conducting a search and destroy mission. And they're destroying everything because they think someone might be hiding humans, Paul added. The president leaned back in her chair. How many species have they eliminated so far? Best estimates put it at 15 to 20 complete extinctions, Dr. Amanda Foster reported from her position at the communication console. That's not counting the partial destructions and ongoing attacks. Jake Morrison, who had returned to Earth after the evacuation, spoke up from his seat at the conference table. The council will come asking for help eventually. They have to. Should we help them? President Davis asked. After what they did to us? Ma'am, Jake replied, this isn't about revenge or politics anymore. We're talking about genocide on a galactic scale. Whatever our differences with the council, we can't just watch billions of innocent people die. Dr. Lisa Parker looked up from her research. There's something else. According to the Devour transmissions Tim decoded, they consider us the primary target. Even if they eliminate every other species in the galaxy, they won't stop looking for humanity. So we're next either way, Paul concluded. Not necessarily, Dr. Foster interjected. The Devourers are artificial intelligences, which means they follow programmed behavior patterns. If we can understand those patterns, we might be able to exploit them. Admiral Stone's voice crackled through the communication system from his flagship in the asteroid belt. General Anderson, our scout ships are reporting increased Devourer activity near the Council core worlds. At their current rate of advance, they'll reach the primary Council systems within 6 months. President Davis stood up slowly. Recommendations? Jake cleared his throat. We offer assistance to the Council, but on our terms. No more banishments, no more treating us like dangerous children. If we're going to save their galaxy, they're going to have to accept that it's our galaxy too. Paul nodded in agreement. Our military is stronger now than it ever was during our council days. We have ships and weapons they've never seen. But, more importantly, we have something the Devourers weren't programmed to handle. Which is? The president asked. Human unpredictability, Paul smiled grimly. The Devourers were designed to hunt species that follow logical, predictable patterns. They expect their targets to behave rationally and follow established protocols. Dr. Foster laughed despite the grim situation. They've obviously never dealt with humans before. Then let's teach them why the Council was so afraid of us, Jake said, standing up. It's time to remind the galaxy that sometimes you need a little chaos to survive. The president authorized immediate preparation of the human fleet for deployment. Beyond the solar system for the first time in 5 years, the Council had wanted humans gone to protect galactic civilization. But now that same civilization would need everything humanity had to offer if it wanted to survive what was coming. Next, the massive human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light. Travel at the edge of Council space with a presence that could not be ignored. Admiral Stone commanded over 300 vessels, each one incorporating 5 years of desperate human innovation. The flagship UES Determination alone was larger than most Council space stations, its hull bristling with weapons and technology that would have been impossible during humanity's exile years. Council. Prime Zekthar stood in what remained of his command center, watching the human fleet approach on his tactical displays. His crystalline form flickered weakly as he realized how much humanity had changed during their banishment. These were not the same ships or the same people the Council had expelled 5 years ago. "Sir," whispered his Filian aide, "incoming transmission." "From the human fleet." Put it through," Zekthar replied, his voice carrying none of the authority it once held. Jake Morrison's face appeared on the main screen, older and scarred from years of exile, but carrying himself with quiet confidence. Behind him, the bridge of his ship showed technology that made Council equipment look primitive by comparison. "Council Prime," Jake said simply, "we received your distress calls." Zekthar wanted to deny that the Council had sent any such calls, but the truth was written across every damaged system and empty world in their territory. "Ambassador Morrison, the Council is grateful for any assistance humanity might provide. Are you?" Jake asked, his tone neutral but pointed. 5 years ago, you called us too dangerous for civilized society. You banished us to protect your peaceful galaxy. How did that work out for you? The chamber fell silent except for the distant sounds of emergency repairs being conducted throughout the station. The few remaining Council delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "The situation has changed," Zekthar admitted reluctantly. "Yes, it has," Jake agreed. "The question is whether you've changed with it." Dr. Lisa Parker appeared beside Jake. On the screen, her expression serious but not unkind. "Prime Zekthar, we know why the Devourers are here. They're looking for us. Your attempt to remove humanity from the galaxy marked every species as a potential accomplice." The reptilian delegate from Vex Prime, one of the few original Council members still alive, hissed in anger. "You brought this destruction upon us." "No," Jake replied firmly. "Your fear brought this destruction upon you. The Devourers have been searching the galaxy for thousands of years. Eventually, they would have found evidence of humanity's existence regardless. The difference is that when they arrived, we would have been here to fight them alongside you instead of watching from exile while you died alone." Admiral Stone's voice joined the conversation from his command ship. "We've spent the last 5 years analyzing every bit of data you transmitted about the Devourer attacks. We know their tactics, their technology, and most importantly, their weaknesses." "They have weaknesses?" asked the floating jellyfish creature whose species now existed. "Only on refugee ships." "Everything has weaknesses," Dr. Amanda Foster replied, joining the conversation from her position in the fleet's mobile research center. "The Devourers are artificial intelligences programmed to hunt specific types of threats. That programming gives them tremendous advantages, but it also makes them predictable." "More predictable than humans," Jake added with a slight smile. "Which is exactly what we need to defeat them." Zekthar's form flickered brighter for a moment. "What do you require from us?" "Full cooperation," Jake stated bluntly. "No more peaceful protocols when dealing with an enemy that shows no mercy. No more committee decisions when seconds count. No more treating military necessity as a suggestion." "You want us to become like humans," the Vex Prime delegate accused. "We want you to survive," Jake corrected. "If that means learning to fight like humans, then yes. The choice is yours, but choose quickly. Our scouts report the main Devourer fleet will reach your core worlds within 2 months." The Council went into emergency session while the human fleet held position at the system's edge. For 6 hours, the remaining species debated among themselves while their worlds continued to fall to the advancing enemy. Finally, Zekthar returned to the communication channel. "The Council accepts your assistance and agrees to follow human military doctrine for the duration of this crisis," he announced, the words clearly painful for him to speak. "Excellent," Jake replied. "Admiral Stone will coordinate fleet movements with your remaining forces. Dr. Foster will begin upgrading your ships with human defensive technology. Dr. Parker will establish communication protocols that the Devourers cannot intercept or decode. And what will you do, Ambassador? Zekthar asked. I'm going to teach your people something the Council tried very hard to prevent, Jake said. I'm going to teach them to think like humans. The transformation that followed would have horrified the old Council. Human military advisors spread throughout the remaining alien fleets, teaching tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare the Council had ever established. Ships that had never fired weapons in anger learned to coordinate attacks with ruthless efficiency. Species that had relied on peaceful negotiation for millennia practiced combat maneuvers that would have been unthinkable just months before. Captain Chris Taylor found himself commanding a mixed squadron of human and alien fighters, teaching pilots who had never seen combat how to use aggression as a weapon. His Zelthri co-pilot initially protested every unconventional tactic. Ramming attacks are not considered acceptable military procedure, the bird-like alien complained as Taylor outlined their first mission. That's exactly why they work, Taylor explained patiently. The Devourers expect rational behavior. They expect their enemies to value their own lives and equipment. When you're willing to sacrifice both for a tactical advantage, it breaks their programming. Dr. Foster's communication breakthrough allowed the combined fleet to coordinate in ways that seemed impossible to the surviving Council species. Messages that once took hours to relay through the traditional Council network now traveled instantaneously across the entire battle zone. How is this possible? Asked the Granite Prime representative as he watched real-time tactical data flowing between ships separated by light years. Quantum entanglement communication, Dr. Foster explained. We developed it during our exile. When you cut us off from your relay network, it's completely secure and operates faster than light speed. Why did you never share this technology during your Council membership? Zekthar asked. You never asked, Jake replied. You were too busy telling us how dangerous and primitive we were to consider that we might have something valuable to contribute. The final preparations took 3 weeks, during which human engineers worked around the clock to upgrade alien vessels with defensive systems and weapons that could actually hurt the Devourers. The combined fleet that emerged from these efforts looked nothing like the peaceful exploration vessels the Council had traditionally used. Are we ready? Zekthar asked as the upgraded fleet prepared to move out. Ready as we can be, Admiral Stone replied from his command ship. Remember, when we engage the Devourers, there are no rules except survival. Fight dirty, fight smart, and fight to win. As the combined human and alien fleet jumped to faster than light, travel toward their first major engagement with the Devourer forces, Zekthar realized that the galaxy would never be the same regardless of the battle's outcome. The Council had tried to preserve their peaceful way of life by removing humanity's influence, only to discover that what they really needed was more human influence, not less. The first real battle between the combined fleet and the Devourers took place in the Kepler system, where 3 Council worlds had gone silent just days before. Captain Chris Taylor led his mixed squadron through the asteroid field that surrounded the system's primary star, using the floating rocks as cover while they approached the massive Devourer ships. Remember, Taylor spoke into his communication system, addressing both human and alien pilots, these machines expect us to behave logically. They think we'll try to preserve our ships and our lives above all else. That's their weakness. Zelthri co-pilot gripped the flight controls with obvious nervousness. Captain, their vessels are 3 times the size of our largest ships. Conventional tactics suggest we should retreat and request reinforcements. Conventional tactics are exactly what got the Council into this mess, Taylor replied, adjusting their flight path toward the nearest Devourer vessel. Trust me on this. The Devourer ships moved with mechanical precision, their formations perfect, and their responses predictable. They had been programmed to fight rational enemies who valued efficiency and self-preservation. When Taylor's squadron suddenly broke formation and began individual attack runs that seemed completely suicidal, the artificial intelligence commanding the enemy fleet struggled to adapt. All squadrons, execute ramming protocol on my mark, Taylor ordered, ignoring the horrified gasps from his alien wingdash mates. At the last possible second, each human pilot ejected their fighter's entire missile payload directly into the Devourer ships' hulls while simultaneously activating their emergency beacon systems. The alien pilots, following their human leaders despite their terror, did the same. The combined explosions tore massive holes in the enemy vessels just as rescue ships arrived to collect the ejected pilots. "Impossible," whispered the Granite Prime Observer from his position aboard Admiral Stone's flagship. "They sacrificed their entire fighter wing to damage 3 enemy ships." "No," Admiral Stone corrected, watching the rescue operations on his tactical display. "They sacrificed their fighter craft to damage 3 enemy ships while preserving their pilots." "There's a difference." Dr. Amanda Foster monitored the battle from her mobile research station, analyzing the Devourer response patterns in real time. "Admiral, the enemy artificial intelligence is trying to adapt to our tactics, but it's limited by its original programming. Every time we do something that violates military logic, it has to recalculate." "How long do those recalculations take?" Stone asked. "Between 30 and 45 seconds, Foster replied. "Long enough for us to hurt them if we keep changing our approach." The breakthrough came when Sergeant Susan Lee, a demolitions expert, serving aboard one of the human destroyers, figured out how to turn the Devourer's hunter programming against them. By broadcasting false signals that made it appear as though human ships were hiding behind Council vessels, she could lure entire Devourer squadrons into carefully prepared ambush zones. The artificial intelligence is designed to prioritize the elimination of apex predators above all other objectives, Lee explained to the combined command staff. "If they think they've found humans, they'll abandon tactical caution to pursue the target. So we become bait," Jake Morrison summarized from his position aboard the command ship. "We become smart bait," Lee corrected. "We lead them exactly where we want them to go." The strategy worked beyond anyone's expectations. Devourer fleets that had seemed unstoppable began falling into trap after trap as human psychological warfare overcame artificial intelligence programming. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for months found themselves outmaneuvered by enemies who refused to follow any logical pattern. The final confrontation took place above the ruins of the original Council homeworld, where the last and largest Devourer fleet had gathered to coordinate their remaining forces. Admiral Stone commanded a combined armada that would have been impossible just months before: human carriers launching alien fighters, Council battleships equipped with human weapons, and mixed-species crews operating under human military doctrine. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone." His voice carried across the fleet through Dr. Foster's quantum communication network. "Today we end this war. Remember what you've learned. Be unpredictable, be aggressive, and above all, be human." The battle that followed lasted 18 hours and involved every ship in both fleets. The Devourers fought with mechanical precision and overwhelming firepower, but they could not adapt fast enough to counter the chaotic, unpredictable tactics their enemies employed. Human ships would suddenly change course in the middle of attack runs. Alien vessels would break formation to provide support where none was expected, and the entire combined fleet moved like a living organism rather than a military formation. Captain Nina Wright brought the stealth ship Defiance directly through the center of the enemy formation, her advanced sensors mapping every Devourer vessel for the artillery ships following behind her. When the enemy artificial intelligence finally detected her presence and moved to intercept, she was already gone, having transmitted targeting data that allowed the heavy weapons platforms to destroy 3 major enemy ships with perfect accuracy. "Their Central Command ship is adapting faster than the others," Nina reported to Admiral Stone. "It's learning from our previous engagements. Then we'll have to teach it something new." Stone replied grimly. The final assault involved every remaining ship in the human fleet converging on the Devourer command vessel simultaneously from different directions, each one using a completely different attack pattern. The artificial intelligence commanding the enemy forces tried desperately to calculate responses to dozens of simultaneous threats, its processing systems overloading as it attempted to predict the unpredictable. Engineer Carlos Martinez, commanding one of the new human battleships, fired his main weapons not at the enemy ship itself, but at the space around it, creating an expanding field of superheated plasma that disrupted the Devourer's sensors. At the same moment, alien vessels launched coordinated missile strikes while human fighters performed seemingly suicidal close-range attacks that somehow always resulted in pilot recovery. When the last Devourer ship finally went silent, the combined fleet hung motionless in space, hardly believing the war was over. The artificial intelligences that had terrorized the galaxy for years lay defeated not by superior technology or overwhelming force, but by the simple human ability to think outside established patterns. Council Prime Zekthar appeared on the main communication screen, his crystalline form now glowing brighter than it had in months. Admiral Stone, Ambassador Morrison, on behalf of the surviving Council species, I offer our deepest gratitude. Don't thank us yet, Jake replied. The hard part starts now. We have to rebuild what was destroyed, and that means building something better than what came before. The old Council is dead, Zekthar acknowledged. What comes next? Jake looked around at the mixed fleet surrounding them. Alien ships flying in formation with human vessels, species that had never worked together now bound by shared struggle and mutual respect. Something new, he said finally. Something that includes everyone, human and alien alike. Something that understands that sometimes you need a little chaos to survive in an ordered universe. The galaxy that emerged from the Devourer War looked nothing like the peaceful, controlled civilization the Council had tried to preserve. It was messier, more dangerous, and infinitely more human. But it was also stronger, more adaptable, and ready to face whatever challenges the universe might send next. The Council had wanted humans gone, thinking they were too dangerous for civilized space, only to learn that civilization itself sometimes needed to be a little dangerous to survive.